gave a totally off the record, you saw it, it said, off the record. And I said something strong, but it's my belief. And they violated it. And they said they were violating it. When you say off the record, that's it's not a legal term, but it's a term of honor. They said, President Trump said off the record, and then they go on to this. I said, this is the first. These are very dishonorable people. But I said, in the end, it's okay, because at least Canada knows how I feel. So it's fine. It's fine. It's true.
Well, when you say something's off the record, it's supposed to be kept confidential. Another first in the Trump administration, we're now seeing all of these barriers coming down. He tells you something off the record, suddenly it's out there somehow. Bloomberg says we didn't leak it out after the interview, but a man who would know about this is Sean Spicer, the former White House press secretary. And Sean, I mean, look, Bloomberg's put out statements saying they didn't tell. There are only a few people in the room. So whether they told the Toronto Star directly or just told somebody privately and then they leaked it to Toronto Star, this seems like a rather remarkable development.
Well, it does. I mean, and I think it's probably the former, and that somebody who was told about it shared it with them. It seems somewhat unlikely that a reporter would go straight to somebody. Right. But again, there's a level of trust that's incorporated in using terms like that, and it prevents the ability to have private and frank discussions and be able to explain to reporters things that you want to say without going on the record to give the reporter a better understanding of your state of mind or facts that might be important.
Sean, can I tell you can I tell you what went through my mind? I thought these are very sensitive negotiations. There's a lot on the line for American farmers, for American dairy farmers. I mean, this could have potentially blown up this negotiation, and I think, wow, they're putting their animus towards the president ahead of America's farmers.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, you look at the amount, not just the agricultural products, but services and manufacturing. There's a lot at stake with these two trading partners to our north and south. And so making sure that we respect those kind of norms is important for our economy.
Absolutely. Well, Sean, you spent a lot of time in that briefing room. You both wrote the book called The Briefing. But at the same time, I've been in that room. The walls are it's tighter confines than it looks like on TV. Yeah. Did it ever feel like the walls were coming in even closer? Because we're hearing more and more about that. Listen to what the media is saying about the Trump presidency.
The walls are closing in. I think at this point, the walls are spinning.
The legal walls are closing in on Donald Trump.
It feels like we are finally at a tipping point. The walls are closing in on President Trump.
The walls, meanwhile, are closing in on the President of the United States.
The walls closing in on President Donald Trump.
So the walls have been closing in since day one. Could the room get any smaller, Sean?
No, I think it's more appropriate. The minds are being blown. Look, you see this over and over again. These guys, every day it's some next degree of sensationalism and concern. The president's continuing to stay focused and getting the results that he is. They continue to have their minds blown by everything that he does. The level of objectivity has been thrown out the window. And there's no question when you look at these surveys one after another that there's a degree of animosity and lack of objectivity in the media that exists today. The Media Research Center has it as high as 92% of the coverage of this president being negative. That's just mind-blowing. The idea that with everything that's being done in the economy, whether it's consumer confidence, the economy, or joblessness, all of these other areas that are being done. And we're not even beginning to talk about trade and what he's doing for American ranchers, farmers, service industry members, and manufacturers, that all that coverage constitutes so much negativity.
And Sean, in fact, I bet if we found some tape from your early days at the podium and you were talking about some of these economic policies, there'd be a lot of reporters saying, there's no way you'll get to 4% GDP. Sean, this is a fantasy.
Oh, even 3%, Ed. 3% was what they said was cooking the books.
And on that point, I will give you time to talk here on trade. I bet when you talked about tariffs and when Sarah after you has talked about tariffs, we've heard all of this, the walls are closing in type things. This is going to blow up the economy. And yet here we see Canada at the table. And Mexico, by the way, has cut a deal with this president that people predicted would never happen, that we would never renegotiate NAFTA. And it's happening.
Oh, not only is it happening, but the deal that he's gotten with Mexico updates the agreement to provide our service providers, our manufacturers, and our agricultural growers with so much more than they did. Remember, NAFTA went into force in the mid-1990s, but the nexus of NAFTA was the Canadian-U.S. Free Trade Agreement signed in 1998. It is that agreement that brought Mexico to the table because they thought they were losing out on an agreement that benefited Canada and would institute more trade, would flow more trade to the north. So it's that same tactic that's now being used in a reverse way. It's bringing Canada back to the table after the president has negotiated a much better deal with Mexico.
It's almost like the guy in the Oval Office has done a few deals before.
Yeah,
or knows how to maybe
so.
negotiate.
But it is interesting, Sean, how they keep giving all this bad news, and the American people are pretty smart. They're kind of ignoring it and every bombshell, and
We'll wait and see.
We'll wait and see.
Well, look, the American people are smart. They understand that they're seeing the results in their pocketbook, that their friends, their neighbors themselves are getting higher wages. They look around and see the economy moving forward. They feel safer. They understand results.
All right, Sean,
I mean, you can't sneak things by them. You can't. I mean, the American people can't have. They know what's going on in the same way that we've seen Pete's tan suit come out over and over again, no matter how many times he tries to sneak it out.
Come on, why not? Obama got one thing right, his fashion
Tune in
sense.
tomorrow for the seersucker suit. That's even worse, Sean.
That's right.
All right, Sean Spicer, the author of The Briefing. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Sean.
Happy Labor Day, guys.
All right, happy Labor Day to you. We're going to turn now to some of your headlines.
You had to get that shot in.
You got the shot in?
He always
got
does.
it in. You got it in. A teen saved from an extremist compound in New Mexico says he was trained